Welcome to the High Republic Spectacular. Today we're talking The Acolyte, Light of the Jedi, and The Blade. All this and more on today's R2-BD. Women exist, Star Wars fans. People of color exist, Star Wars fans. People with a different sexuality than yours exist, and their existence does not affect your life in the slightest. Unless you let it. Welcome to R2-BD, friends. My name is Joey. I wanted to get that out there, because, I mean, look, I'm pretty sure like any Acolyte review on the internet is attracting unwanted attention. So just kind of getting that out there for anyone that thinks they're in for a different kind of review. So anyway, welcome to R2-BD. My name is... Go ahead.
Yeah. Your name's Joey. I ate it already. My name is Jacob. And we're here to talk about Star Wars and specifically the High Republic.
Yeah, we're here to talk about High Republic things. We've got the Acolyte recently came out, which is awesome. But we're also going to talk about some books and comics. This not just serves to fill in our regular sort of schedule that we do for this show. But also for those that may be interested in High Republic things after watching The Acolyte. We'll definitely talk about other ways to get into the High Republic, as we're big High Republic fans. We love the books, we love the comics, audio dramas even. It's all great. It's great stuff. Mostly great.
Mostly great.
Yeah. I guess kind of jumping right into this. We've got The Acolyte. We're also covering. We should actually mention what books and comics we're covering.
That's probably really full at the moment.
Yeah, we're sort of foregoing the usual. I choose a book, Jacob chooses a book thing for this, because we both kind of knew, like, when The Acolyte eventually came out, we kind of wanted to do a High Republic focused episode, and so we kind of chose good introductory books and comics for this one. We chose Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, which is kind of like the pilot book for the High Republic, and then we chose The Blade also by Charles Soule. Which is a comic that takes place in the High Republic's Phase 2. We'll talk about that later. But also, just a really great standalone story. But of course, we're starting this discussion with The Acolyte, as that is very likely the thing that most people watching this have actually seen already. This is the thing we can most easily talk about spoilers regarding. So I guess.
I mean, of course, still spoiler warning, because it is still the newest piece of content we'll be talking about, I suppose.
Absolutely. And just when I think we're out of new show release hell, I find out that Skeleton Crew is releasing in December. So
yeah,
That's going to be fun. It does, it does look fun. It does actually look fun. I think I'm just always excited by Star Wars content where I don't know any of the characters. Like I love that feeling when I just get to explore completely new stories. Just excites me. But yeah, so thankfully, but we should have time to get a couple more regular episodes of R2-BD and before Skeleton Crew comes out. So that'll be nice.
It should be nice.
Yeah. So let's talk about The Acolyte, which has gotten so much unwarranted hate. My God, I'm gonna try to do most of this review without sort of delving into that hate, because look, if you have a brain, you know that the real reason why these people disliked this show before it even came out. We know for a fact the shit was review bombed before the episode's even fucking released. This is not something that deserves any more attention than merely mentioning that it happened. As a show, I thoroughly enjoyed The Acolyte. I really did. Not my favorite Star Wars thing ever. I don't think it was ever really going to be. But yeah, it's great.
A good show. It's not my favorite piece of Star Wars content. It's not my favorite piece of High Republic content either. But that being said, 100% worth your time still.
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. I think also what I'm really enjoying seeing already, since finishing The Acolyte, is that this is an era of Star Wars that, even without a potential season 2, which I do really hope it gets a season 2, but even without that, it is still an era. Yeah, it is still an era that that Lucasfilm is still interested in pursuing. We've already had the announcements of a couple books that are coming out in relation to the Acolyte, a comic book based on Kanaka, which is fucking awesome. Kanaka showing up also in the main High Republic comics fairly soon, so that's really cool. It's just really nice to see that this is something that, despite obvious review bombing and hate mongering for no fucking reason, that this is something that Lucasfilm still really believes in, and the creators behind it still are really interested in pursuing. And so that's really cool.
Really cool, and it's just also an observation that the Acolyte publishing initiative is clearly, and not a complaint, clearly just an extension of the High Republic publishing initiative.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, just right down to
it's just that natural idea, general creative team. And they're like, what if the High Republic just kept going, though?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so how High Republic typically announces, comics and books. They're like, hey, here's an adult book, a young adult book, and a middle grade novel. They didn't announce any middle grade novel because I'm not sure how you could for the Acolyte. But
honestly, that feels like the middle grade going to be foregone in this formatting.
Yeah. But they did announce adult and young adult books taking place entirely before the Acolyte. There's one that takes place 20 years before the Acolyte, which I think is cool, and one that takes place obviously much closer to it, which is awesome. I like that sort of like natural extension of what the show is doing, and how that is sort of bleeding nicely into what these writers were already doing with the High Republic initiative.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's actually talk about the show itself, though. Yes. I think I want to have like a bit more of a free-form discussion rather than taking it like episode by episode.
Yeah, especially because the show is kind of free-form in its narrative, if you will.
Yeah, the only sort of like more episodic thing about it is the 2 episodes dedicated to flashbacks, telling the same flashback but from different perspectives, which is really cool.
It is true from a certain point of view.
Yeah, literally that. But yeah, so I guess tackling a broader topic to sort of start getting into this. What I really liked about Leslie Headland being the creator of this show, her sort of approach to telling this story is the Jedi are not our protagonists, or not our main protagonists, mostly. The perspective characters of this are what I think in a lot of Star Wars stories would typically be considered our villains. These are, just which in the past has just kind of historically been anyone that opposes the Jedi. When, Star Wars has pointed out many a time, George Lucas himself has pointed out many a time that the Jedi are the problem. And so when you actually like take a story like this from someone else's perspective and see the Jedi how a lot of the rest of the galaxy sees them, that's what I think a really fascinating story like this is able to shine. But
there's even in the like through portions of the story, there's even like non-antagonistic forces that like they're not like with the traditional guys, if you will. Or the one senator, I can't picture his name, who wants
Senator Raincourt, yeah.
Senator Raincourt?
Wants to open
a committee, Senate, to oversee the goings on of the Jedi Order, because, quite frankly, he can see the writing on the wall roughly 70-ish years early.
Oh yeah. This is something that it's something that I'm also really appreciating seeing, and something that I'm sure I really hope is interesting to people that have a bit more of a casual relationship with Star Wars. Is seeing a story so far removed from the Skywalker saga, but still like planting those little seeds, like with Senator Raincourt, showing like how the Senate will eventually like have that uneasy relationship with the Jedi in the future, and how they'll sort of have a hold on them in the future. I hope that is still like interesting to watch, and of course we've had like non-Skywalker saga projects within Star Wars before, like The Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, etc. But these are still like within those 9 films. It's still within that time.
Yeah, they're within the Skywalker saga time frame, exactly. We're talking about events
this is
that are spun off from events from centuries ago.
Yeah, any sort of Skywalker that exists in this time period is so insignificant. This is like what, the grandfather of Shmi Skywalker, maybe, that exists at this time.
Maybe.
Yeah. Crazy. I love that, and it's something that appeals to me about the High Republic books as a whole, which is probably another reason why you and me both really enjoy those books so much. But yeah. I will say also, this is like entirely your fault. You got me into the High Republic in the first place.
I did.
So.
This is entirely my fault. I want to talk about my relationship though when we get to the actual book part.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But yeah, something also I found really interesting. This is more about the promotion of the show. How I don't know if you remember any of the promotion of this show, but they never talk about Osha as a character. The twin thing wasn't apparent at first. The only character that was advertised was May.
Yeah,
and there were, I think
that because the first episode threw me for a loop when the reveal of character on a planet, other character on a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't initially two separate characters, but like I remember when that happened, like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah, another big part of the promotion of the show was like the opening scene of the show though too. Like that was the scene that they showed off like when they did the Phantom Menace re-release. And like the one thing they cut out of it is quite literally the inciting incident of the show, and that is that Master Andara dies there. In that opening scene, which also I can't help but feel like maybe might have been a bit of stunt casting, maybe. Because it's Carrie-Anne Moss. She's easily, I would say, easily the biggest star in the Acolyte. And hey, tell people, hey, Carrie-Anne Moss is playing a Jedi in the new Star Wars show. Everyone watches it, and she dies in like the first 10 minutes.
Right,
but,
I know.
But she does still get an opportunity to shine, thankfully, in later episodes. Granted, those are flashback episodes.
2 flashback episodes. But here's the thing: I think they do a really good job of showing the most unchanged characters of like how you see her in the past in relation to how you see her in her death, essentially.
Yeah. Because she's, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, she's the cop of the group, really. Which is another thing, because we've talked about the upcoming books already. That's also something that they've sort of hinted at with the upcoming books, is that like Indara is kind of the one that turns Vernestra into a cop by getting her back to the more involved in Jedi politics. But yeah, this is like the most corporate Jedi I think we might have ever seen, and I really love that. I like that for her character, but.
Yes, I mean,
let's also talk about
it makes for an interesting characterization. Is all I'm going to say at this point.
Mm-hmm. Let's also talk about her little band of sort of cops as well that she carries around with her. These are the characters we see in the flashbacks, of course. Sol, Kelnaka, and Torben that are with her.
Torben being her Padawan at the time.
Yeah, look, Kelnaka did nothing wrong. Yeah. Kelnaka did nothing wrong. Come on. Like,
oh no, he literally did nothing wrong.
Literally did nothing wrong. Like all these other people, yeah, sure, kill them, whatever. Kelnaka, fucking saint. I love this man. Even to the point where like the one bad thing he ends up doing in the flashbacks, he's being mind controlled. So like, come on. He did absolutely nothing wrong.
First, the Master Soul fucked up first. The only reason Kelnaka is being freaking puppeted around, even.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I mean, I need to talk. Look, as I have a complicated relationship, I think, like many, with Jedi Master Soul, because my God,
yeah.
I think he's because from the first episode, I think he's the most likable character. I remember coming off that first episode and thinking like, that's the best character. Lee Jae Jung, the wonderful actor that played. Sorry, I think I got that right. Or. Lee Jung Jae. Had it swapped around. The actor that plays him, fantastic. As I understand, he learned English for the role, which is fucking insane.
That's what I recall learning. That's what I recall hearing at one of the Star Wars celebrations.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And like, but yeah, he comes across as like the most likable character in that first episode. Second episode is like, Yeah, he's great. Even in the flashback, he comes across the best. The first flashback, that is.
Told
He
the perspective that makes the most sense to make him most likable still.
Yeah, definitely. He yeah, I remember just like I remember just that second to last episode breaking my heart so much because the show had done such
so bad.
The show had done such a great job of getting me on that guy's side so much. I could accept that every other Jedi there was an asshole. But no, like there was
still
Saul.
Didn't do anything wrong.
Konaka still did nothing wrong. But yeah, Saul was the one that broke my heart the most because the show made me fall in love with his character, made me fall in love with his genuine feelings. As great a Jedi as he was, his feelings towards Osha and May, or Osha in particular.
Osha specifically, yeah.
Yeah, I fell in love with that idea for that character, and
there was a moment in that second to last episode where I was like, I could maybe forgive the stuff that happened, like when he kills the one mother, the coven leader.
Oh, I have the name written down. Anasea.
When he kills Anasea, I was like, this is a bit of a rash move, but I could potentially see the steps to get there.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, well, also, I mean, shit. I just came up with this parallel, but I've been jokingly referring to the Jedi as cops throughout this whole thing. It's kind of the thought they had a weapon moment and fucking went at them. I mean, I thought of that just now. Wow. Okay.
But while I watched that episode, when I watched it, I was like, I could potentially see the steps how you get here. Not cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was that really rash moment that made him just turn on her and not really. You can understand how he doesn't realize what he's doing in that moment. That makes sense.
There is a conscious choice he makes 5 minutes later that I'm like, that's just pure asshole move.
Yeah, he chooses.
It's Osha and May. They're on bridges. It's broken in the middle. They're dipping down, and he's using the Force to actively save both of them. Until he decides, no, I want Osha.
Yeah, he just chooses to let May fall, and that's the moment. Like that is exactly the moment. Like, I mean, for May's character motivation, it's more a "you killed my mother" moment, but the actual damning moment, I think, for a lot of people is when he actively chooses to let a child die, or presumably die, I guess.
Presumably die, yeah.
Yeah, it's something else. It's so great. But also on this, speaking on Soul's relationship to Osha and May, I guess I want to start talking about our villain, the one and only the Stranger, as they kept referring to him as, or the Master, I believe they refer to him as sometimes, which, I mean, just Roger Delgado in my mind, but but no, this is a character we meet early on named Kamir, who is in fact who's very much putting on this sort of bumbling fool sort of facade. So I think a lot of people, I know it was like the leading theory leading up to the reveal of who the Stranger was. That Yoda
was a Sith instead of in Episode 5.
Well, no, it's more like it's more like if like Empire Strikes Back was episodic and you meet crazy little gremlin man on Dagobah, and the big question is like, who's this Yoda that Luke is looking for, and everyone's like, oh, it's the crazy little gremlin man. But no, yeah, the reveal comes up. Kamir is in fact the Stranger, the person looking for an acolyte, an apprentice, and that is where I found the relationship to Soul the most interesting. Was that that Kamir and Soul are coming from very similar places in their character motivations.
They are, and it makes them interesting. I mean, the Stranger, the Master, Kamir, he's an interesting character. Like, once you see him come into show his potential, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a master swordsman, which isn't a shocker given the relationship given by the end of the series.
Yeah, he instantly became I mean, what I first thought, the most one of the most like OP Star Wars villains, like right off the bat, watching him just massacre those fucking Jedi in that forest. Absolutely insane. I loved watching Manny something, I forget his last name. The actor playing him, Manny Jacinto, I believe is how you pronounce it. Play Khmer, because he crushed it. I think we also have like some like behind the scenes videos of him like training for that fight in the forest. Like he crushes it. He's unbelievable. Yeah, an absolute powerhouse of a lightsaber fighter. And not so definitely
also a powerhouse of a physical fight. Like when they're not fighting with lightsabers, just there's just straight punches being tossed. It's phenomenal still.
I mean, one of our main Jedi characters we were following for those first couple episodes dies by physical force. He gets his fucking neck snapped rather than a lightsaber through him. But yeah, I found that parallel between Khmer and Soul really fascinating, because it both of their motivations come from the want to have an apprentice, somebody that they can teach, someone they can pretty much be friends with, which is where you see Soul's failings as a Jedi, and that he should not have that sort of attachment, and that is where Khmer's strength comes from, is that he does legitimately care about Osha and May. Well, May in particular, but then it turns into a care for Osha. It's interesting.
I'd also like to point out that you could potentially see that a big flaw in Soul early on, because his Jackie in the first episode, second episode, catches him like he's doing it illegally, but like sees him looking at like hollows of his old Padawans, specifically Osha, I think at the moment.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Why do you keep those? Isn't that a form of attachment?"
Mm-hmm. So you get like little hints of that like really early on, and I just really appreciate that. I really like the way that that's done. Actually, you know what? This is something I do want to bring up. While we're talking about the I did mention like the relationship between Osha and May. I love the titles of this show. Did you catch what they were doing with the titles? I really love it.
I might not have, and I caught that most of them were like doubles of each other, but
probably
missed the obvious.
Some of them weren't, and I believe what they're going for. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is it. Is that the ones with like two titles are where Osha and May's journeys are separate and they're doing different things, and the ones with one title are where they're sort of overlapping and like kind of doing the same thing. So you've got Lost and Found in the first episode, Revenge and Justice in the second episode. The third episode, which is the first flashback, is called Destiny. The fourth and fifth episode are called Day and Night, because they're both on the planet together. That's what they, where they are, what they're doing. The sixth episode, they're separated again, Teach and Corrupt. The seventh episode is our second flashback, which is Choice, and the last episode is called The Acolyte, which I loved that naming scheme so much. I thought that was so fucking cool. Yeah, just really great stuff. I thought that was so smart. Yeah. Let's see. Other characters I do want to talk about. Actually, we did mention Yorda and Jecki already, but I do want to talk about Yorda and Jecki.
Who start off with worth talking about.
Yeah. These are characters that also this is something that, I think just a lot of modern pop culture needs to have a better handle on, and this is Stakes, because these are characters that, maybe Yord not so much, but Jecki is a character I think that a lot of audiences have an opportunity to really get attached to really understand. I think a lot of that is actually down to Daphne Keene's performance, who is fantastic, of course.
She was great. I mean, if her performance definitely contributed to her likability as the character, but even if you take out that potential likability, like the charisma coming off the actor, if you will, you still have like a solidly built character underneath.
Oh yeah, I think so. I believe there was actually there's that small moment that I remember catching in episode 2 or 4, one of those ones, when Jecki and Osha are like temporarily like parting ways, and they're saying goodbye to each other, and I think Daphne Keene literally said in an interview like she was playing it as if like Jecki had a thing for Osha, and so I it was subtle, but I did catch on to that. I don't know if you did at all.
I took the more obvious meaning of let's get together, but I did properly put together there was some subtext not being said. Not directly being said, I should say.
Yeah, but I definitely caught on to that, and it's just small things like that like, even if even if a character is going to, be killed off, say halfway through the series, that does still make that person a character. The person still has like motivations, flaws, things like that.
They're not all
it,
blank slates that have
yeah,
no
exactly.
personality.
Yeah. Like, and look, I get it. He was a meme. Yord hashtag Yord Horde and all that. But Yord, I don't think Yord had a character, did he? I just don't think he did. Yeah, he was just kind of there. I am looking forward to the fact. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say personally, I didn't understand why Yord became a meme. I understood he was a bit of a
pretty much
I didn't understand why he became a meme.
Pretty much because he was a blank slate. They're like, fucking Yord Horde, latch onto like the most nothing character in the episode. So that was, I remember seeing that. That was fucking hilarious. But I am excited for the fact that Yord and Jeki are the main characters of that young adult novel coming up for the Acolyte.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That is exciting. I think that'll be really fun.
Actually, you know what? One character, I mean, you're welcome to disagree. Personally, I thought like Yord's character trait that came off strongest was that he felt he was superior to maybe his fellow class of Padawans.
That's true. That's
true. Because think about it. He mentioned it to Osha a few times. He explicitly is like kind of rule abiding, and he makes a big deal about not studying like the typical secondary Star Wars languages.
Yeah.
So if anything, like his character personality trait is that he feels he's maybe more stuck up. He's more proud of himself that he took the less traditional paths. He feels like he was better than his fellow classmates. Is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I get that. I just don't think like, and maybe it's more an actor thing. Maybe that's the reason that like maybe like Daphne Keane stood out to me more as Jeki than I forget the actor's name who played Yord, but maybe that's like why like he didn't like stand out to me as much. Because yeah, I think Daphne Keane like fucking crushed it as Jeki, and Yord was just kind of there for the most part for me.
I definitely think it's more. I think it's probably not helped because of that actor charisma. Probably didn't help, because she definitely crushed it as Jeki. Her characterization's phenomenal. She plays it really well, and that fight scene really cemented that this is both the character that's really well written, really well rounded, and from an acting perspective, it's top notch.
Yeah. Do you know who Daphne Keane is? Actually, you would know her from another big.
I can picture the name, but I can't put it to anything in.
That is a little Lara, little X-23 from Logan.
Okay.
Yeah. So which brings me to like the next point I wanted to bring up with her was that when she goes head to head with Khmer and she's fucking crushing it in that fight scene. I mean, come on, that's pure X-23 right there. That's Daphne Keane putting that shit to good use. I think Night as a whole, it was easily like my favorite episode of the show. I think a lot of people's favorite episode of the show.
It was definitely my favorite.
Yeah, it's and look, I understand we're Star Wars fans. It's easy to see the swoosh laser sword fight and go like that is easily the best episode of the show. But I think it's better for reasons. It's the best for reasons that are not strictly related to what is mostly an extended lightsaber fight sequence. It is really, I think, where the story ramps up. It's where I personally noticed a lot of the artificial hate for this show start to dissipate a little bit online. It certainly didn't go away or anything. It was definitely there, but no, I think like Night really won a lot of people over. I think
it's also the episode that fulfilled my prophecy. I think I mentioned on the show even.
Which one?
That there's going to have to be a lot of dead Jedi.
Yeah, true. Yeah, definitely. To the point where quite literally the only one surviving is Soul.
Even he doesn't make it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he survives. He survives that one fight.
I meant the end of the season, because then our attentions turn elsewhere after he's died, and there's the most pissed off cover up. Even though I have mixed feelings on Soul at the end. It's still not cool what happens.
Yeah. But I think Night does something so important. In establishing Khmer as a threat and perfectly setting up this, I don't want to say redemption, because Khmer doesn't necessarily change as a character, but redeeming him in the eyes of the audience and showing that, like, putting him quite literally in the darkest place you could possibly put him, and that is Jedi Massacre, in the context of this show. And then making you understand where he comes from, why he does what he does, why his relationship to May and Osha is what it is. I think that's what really makes him a great character after that. But putting him in this really, really dark place, really early on, to the point where he fucking, after he kills Jackie, and first off, like, the coolest death in this whole show. I fucking love that shot so much. The fact that you pair those three stabs with that smaller lightsaber he has with the body drop, and that's when you see Khmer is the one underneath the mask. Fucking brilliant. I love it. But the fact that, like, after he kills her, he said, what is it, like, Soul calls out her name, he's like, Jackie, and he goes, was that its name? Like, oh my god, awful, you hate him so much right off the bat. And villains you love to hate, or why exactly I fell in love with Manny's performance. But even more so afterwards. I thought Teach and Corrupt was a great episode for him. The Acolyte, he really got to shine in his moments with Soul. Just a fantastic character. I if for nothing else, I need season 2 because I need to see where this guy goes. I need to see what Khmer does.
I know. I'm like,
oh my god.
I'm on the edge of my seat because I gotta know what a story is. Gotta know. I mean, we can piece together parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's presumably, the pieces I put together were that he's Vern's Padawan, like a former Padawan.
Yes, yeah, he definitely is, because he's got literal whip marks on his back. I imagine that's what's up with that.
Yeah, those definitely are lightsaber whip marks, and and Vern can sense him. Say, what's her line? Is that he's alive or something like that? Like implying that he's presumed also dead. She's like, it's you, yeah. And you know what? Actually, because we've talked about like two sort of, I guess, more easily predicted twists. People were like, oh yeah, well, Khmer is the stranger and Khmer is Vern's Padawan, and those are whip marks because Vern's got the light whip. And it's something I think about a lot, actually. I think of like the obvious twist and people complaining about obvious twists in relation to mystery stories. But I don't know. I think in favor of the obvious twist, especially in relation to this show. I think it does more to actually reward the audience in this case, for them to actually be able to figure it out rather than do so many misdirects so that they can't figure it out. I'd rather this than that, you know? I mean, a mystery can solve before it's done.
Yeah. I often think too, my best example of the obvious twist is always the end of Better Call Saul season 2, when Chuck has all the foil wrapped around inside his house, and he gets Jimmy to confess, and everyone knows he's fucking recording it. Everyone knows it's a trap. Everyone knows it's coming. Everyone knows that twist is happening, but it doesn't take away from the weight of that scene or the greatness of the moment when the tape recorder is revealed. And so yeah, I think obvious twists like this just honestly do even more to reward the audience than just constantly trying to misdirect them.
If anything, it shows you're paying attention as an audience.
Yeah, exactly. I will absolutely take this over constant misdirects. Yeah, so that's my piece on that. Anyway, sorry.
That is mostly for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. Honestly, I have often thought about making just like a short form video, just like, in favor of the obvious twist, something like that, because it's something I think about a lot, actually. Anyway, let's talk about some cameos. We had a couple, not many in this show, but yeah, but enough to set the internet ablaze. First, in the form of Master Ki-Adi-Mundi, which really fucking pissed people off. Did you see about this, man?
I did, but I didn't understand. Can you explain? I saw something about a birthday.
Yeah, that is literally it. People are mad at Ki-Adi-Mundi's birthday. So, back in Legends...
Yes, go on.
That is the most important start to this.
I figured this was the problem.
That is the most important part of this. Back in Legends, which, keep in mind, is no longer canon. Back in Legends, Ki-Adi-Mundi had a canon birthday. Now he doesn't. However,
it was the canon birthday, just sheer curiosity.
The canon birthday, I don't know exactly what it was, but he had a canon birthday that was definitively, like, it would have been after this show happened.
Got it. Okay, that's all.
But people were so pissed at this, because then, oh god, and this gets even worse then, because Wikipedia then officially, I guess, they put an official, they put officially on his Wikipedia page that he was, born somewhere before the Acolyte around this time. And people were like, what? No, Wikipedia, you can't change that. It's like, no, it wasn't canon in the first place. There's a reason Wikipedia literally separates the Legends and canon sections. But then, like, fucking
Wikipedia's Also, Wikipedia is a fan site still.
Yeah, but also then it got even worse because like 2 weeks later, Wikipedia had a big scandal with a bunch of its admins. So all those people that came out in defense of Wikipedia, defending it against these weird fucking haters, had to like retract all that because
I didn't even hear about this.
Wikipedia turned out to be run by a bunch of pieces of shit. So like this got nuts. I cannot fucking believe it. Anyway, Keanu Bundy's in this show, which is for a specific reason. The reason being that Keanu Bundy is the guy in the Phantom Menace that says the Sith have been extinct for generations. He believes that definitively. Which also got people upset because, like, I don't know, I guess people thought that was actually true. Like,
okay,
but
also, they forget the fact there has to be someone to train Sidious.
You're right, like, yeah, you guys obsess over the fucking Plagueis novel all the time, which we'll get there in a moment. But you guys obsess over the Plagueis novel, and it's like, no, it's the Sith never were actually extinct. They just went into hiding, like, obviously. But whatever. And obviously the point of that is to say that Keanu Bundy never finds out. If he's the guy saying that the Sith are extinct, then he never finds out, and he never does. And also, even more importantly, Kimir isn't actually a Sith. So come
like
on,
the traditional Sith, like rule of.
Well, yeah, because the line that he has at night when he's talking to Sola is like, you know, he's like, you would call me Sith, but that's clearly not it. Because actually, also back on the Kimir topic, I don't know if you caught this, because again, in favor of the obvious twist, if I may, they straight up use Kylo Ren's theme in multiple Kimir scenes.
I didn't catch all of them. I caught it, I think, only once, if I'm honest.
It definitely plays at the big Kimir reveal when Jackie
falls. Definitely caught it then, but I don't think I caught it anywhere else.
It plays a couple times. It's definitely like twice at night and once, I believe, in the finale. But yeah, it's there, and I'm pretty sure the implication is that definitely this guy goes off and starts the Knights of Ren. I think is the implication.
He's not a proper Sith, because he doesn't say I am a Sith. He says you would call me Sith.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I can't wait to see where that goes. And actually, speaking of, you know, potential involvements with the Sith, and we did just bring him up, so we got to talk about Darth fucking Plagueis, who does show up in this show.
In a weird way, though, if I'm kind of chilling in a cave.
He's chilling in a cave. He's hanging out there. He's having a good time.
Like, why is he there? I mean, apprentices.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is like, so we don't know yet, and again, I need season 2 for this reason. I believe the implication that a lot of us took when we first saw that was that was Kimir's new master. But Kimir never talks about a new master, nothing like that. I don't think he actually knows Plagueis yet. But I think Plagueis is going to get involved in this somehow. I think Plagueis is going to have something to do with this. Because obviously I don't think Palpatine's around yet, so gotta find out what Plagueis is up to during this time. And holy shit, I also just can't get past the fact that we saw fucking live action Darth Plagueis. Absolutely insane. I cannot get over it. But anyway,
that's the Plague and the Vern stuff with when this show comes, like when the season ended, like this the cliffhangers on. Those are the two reasons the show to continue.
Yeah. Speaking of Vern, our last sort of cameo that I want to talk about is the last shot of the show.
And Vern asked backwards legacy character.
Yeah,
if you will.
Yeah. Let's so Yoda. First of all, I called the Yoda appearance like right at the, or like when they first showed off Coruscant, I was like, oh, we're getting Yoda. I like, there's no way we're not getting Yoda in the finale somehow. I didn't expect it to be a backshot cameo, no lined appearance, but I imagine, you know, if season 2 does happen,
Yoda's going to be more Frank Oz in there.
I cannot wait to see them recreate through CGI, crackhead Phantom Menace puppet Yoda. Because I think that's very much the look they went for in that headshot at the end there. But maybe not. Who the fuck knows? Really funny. But actually, we bring up Vern. We didn't talk about Vern much because Vern is a book character. Importantly, she's kind of like the only High Republic. What's up?
Mostly, she's in Phase 1 in the middle grade books. She's taking more of a center stage role in Phase 3.
Yeah, and it's just exciting to see her. She's the only like actual High Republic book character that has shown up in this show. There have been very tiny other references to larger High Republic things, but nothing quite as big as Vernestra literally being in the show. Also, it's really funny. Actually, we made the schedule before the show had actually finished releasing, but those two other High Republic references in this show are about things that were covered today, which is really cool. I really appreciate that. But yeah, Vern is the character that has definitely changed the most, and is the one I'm most fascinated to see where she ends up leaving the main three phases of the High Republic initiative. And also, I cannot wait for that book called Wayseeker with her and Indara.
Wayseeker feels like it's going to be the best kind of bridging of wherever her Phase 3 characterization leaves, and to see how we get to cover up every and all conspiracy and situation in the Jedi Order now, please.
And turn Vernestra into a fucking cop. That's the
thing she's literally pissed off at Man for.
Yeah. But anyway, let's see. I have like two other things to talk about. And they're mostly like sort of like continuity things that I believe pissed off a certain sector of the internet. One not as much as the other. We'll talk about the one that didn't piss them off as much. Kyber crystals. Let's talk about kyber crystals. I think people that
we believe them, presumably, yes.
Yeah, exactly. This is an idea that I think if someone wasn't a fan of bleeding kyber crystals, they already got over that long before this show came out. But physically seeing it happen in live action is absolutely insane. I love the idea of it feeds into the idea of like a Sith's hate. Literally making them and making their weapon. It is their hatred. It is literally their blood that makes that saber.
It is such a corrupting force that it has to physically interact, and I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah. I can't imagine typically that kyber crystals are currently in use when they are bled. So actually physically seeing the color of the blade change after the crystal was bled, I thought was a fascinating choice. I really love that.
It's the best representation to show what happened if you missed it. Because it's not a long shot of the crystal itself being bled.
Yeah. But no, it's cool. It's really fucking cool. I love the way it was done. And then also I want to talk about Jacob, I have a question for you. Is Anakin Skywalker special?
I mean, he's special in relation to the trilogies.
Is he still special after this show?
Because I know there were a lot of people who said he is no longer special.
Yes. The correct answer is, of course, yes, of course, Anakin fucking Skywalker is still fucking special. He's still the fucking chosen one. You dumb fucks. Just because there are other ways of creating life in the Star Wars universe that we already fucking knew about before this show happened does not make Anakin Skywalker less special. And also, my god, let the lesbian witches make some fucking life.
Here's the thing. I didn't understand what people were so upset about when they were like, Anakin's no longer the only force-bound made being. And I'm like, yeah. And?
I really didn't think he was in the first place. It
almost feels like a given.
But also, this is a very different take on that, isn't it? This is literally... somebody has used the Force or some other mystic power within the galaxy. I believe it all derives from the Force. Somebody has used the Force. Yeah, to use it to still manually create life. The Anakin Skywalker take is more the George Lucas Christian take on the
chosen one.
Yeah, chosen one, Virgin Mary, Immaculate Conception, whatever. That's all it is. But this is literally like using the Force in this almost perverted way to sort of create life, which is why the Jedi are investigating that in the first place. I love it. I love the idea. I think it's cool as hell. I do also like the idea that these are different witches from like Night Sisters. They do call that out. Because they straight up called them Night Sisters at one point, and they're like, no, that's not what this is.
We're a different sect. Broadly same idea, different thing though.
Yeah. And I really dig that idea. I think that's cool as hell. And I don't know, something that I'd like to see expanded on. Something that I think definitely might be delve
also
into
have
in the
like
comics, maybe.
they also definitely have different beliefs than the Night Sisters do, which is obvious by like the whole
Yeah.
power of one, power of two thing, power of many.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that we ever saw the Night Sisters doing. I mean, maybe we might now to show they have like some kind of base connection.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've
Right.
seen so much of the Night Sisters that we have a solid grasp as to what they did, believed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
this is definitely a different group that could have potentially splintered off from the Night Sisters or something similar to them.
Yeah.
They're
Or at
clearly
least come
not
from the same
same,
place
and enough
somehow.
time has passed.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think that's everything that I really have to say about the Acolyte. Anything else from you?
Just that I thought it was an excellent show, and I hope it gets to season 2 because I really want to explore that relationship between Kamir and Vernostra, because I feel like that could be really fascinating to see play out as they each have now a different one of the twins again.
Yeah, yeah. It is important to point out for those listening that we're recording this before D23 happens, so that if there's an Acolyte season 2 announcement incoming, it will have already happened before this comes out. So I don't know. We're recording this before that potential announcement. If it does happen.
So if you're listening and going, what are these idiots talking about? Of course there's a season 2. We don't know that yet.
Jacob, they have called us idiots long before that. Trust me. But yeah, I guess we'll see. And I really do hope that we see much more of this show, much more of this universe, this side of the universe.
This side of the timeline, Eve, if you will.
Yeah. Give me more. In the words of Britney Spears. All right. So typically on this show, what we would do is we would go into the comic next in the book. But because this is a High Republic spectacular, and we're assuming that maybe you, dear listener, watcher, are interested in the High Republic because of the Acolyte. Then we're going to kind of treat this next bit of the discussion as if you are interested in getting into more High Republic things. So I can't imagine we'll do that for super long, but hey, we're going to talk about, I guess, the larger aspects of getting into the High Republic. Talk about the 3 phases, how to, what are some good entry points, and then we're going to talk about said potential entry points. So the High Republic books and comics. I say books, but because it's a side of Star Wars that mostly exists through books. But of course, there are comics. There are audio dramas. There are animated shorts on Disney Junior.
And if you have small kids, there is a show.
Absolutely, go check that out. I'm sure it's fine. I have no interest in it myself, but yeah. But that's all out there. It is a gigantic multimedia project that can be mostly experienced, I would say, through the books. It is a side of the universe split into 3 sort of phases. The idea is that these phases are structured similarly to how the Skywalker saga was released. The idea was that phase 1 is sort of your original trilogy. Phase 2 is your prequel trilogy. So phase 2 is literally all happens before phase 1. And then phase 3 is your sequel trilogy. It all happens after phase 1. And you don't technically need phase 2 to understand it.
Right. You could go right into phase 3 from phase 1. You don't miss a lot in reality, but we say that as people who experience it actively as it's coming out, so we don't know what you'd be missing, if we're honest.
Yeah. But
I'm sure there's a lot of context that we just take for granted that we know.
Oh yeah, I think so. But I would say actually, a lot of these are pretty accessible because there usually with each phase there are only like 3 things that you absolutely need to understand the rest of the phase, and outside of that. I wouldn't say most of it's supplemental, but I would say that most of it is just more context for those 3 main things, whatever trilogy is carrying the phase.
I will say phase 3 is a bit more needed to know. I saw a comment that was talking about a recently released book, Temptation of the Force, as of this recording. And they were like, oh, I guess I just missed stuff because I'm not reading anything else, just the adult books.
See, I don't know. I didn't think, because I read Temptation of the Force, and I didn't think that you would really be missing anything by not reading the others. What were they referring to?
They were referring to the fact that how do you say it? Is it care?
Say what? Yeah, Care Santeca.
Yeah, they were like, because the commenter specifically was referring to Care Santeca and going, "Oh, is this the first time we're meeting Care Santeca?" And then he was like, "No, everyone talks like we should have known him already, and that his hand is now missing, and that this is like an inciting incident going forward."
See, I don't think it's
that information in the book was treated.
It's a massive event. Huh?
That book was, but the book treated it as if like the audience members should know that.
I mean, I think it no more than I think like any of the other main High Republic stories have treated events like that. You know, I think at least, but I guess unless I'm misreading it, because I usually keep up on almost all High Republic things.
Right, so. Me and you, we have the benefit, time, and financially to do everything.
Yeah.
Not everyone has the time, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Point being, for those listening, there are typically 3 things you can read/listen to for each of these phases. For phase 1, it's just the main adult trilogy. It's Light of the Jedi, Dark Force Rising. Am I right? Yeah, Dark Force Rising, and The Fallen Star. For phase 2, it is instead the 2 young adult novels and the audio drama. It's the young adult novel Path of Deceit, then the audio drama Battle of Jedha, and then the last young adult novel Path of Vengeance. And then so we have phase 3 currently coming out, which I would say the main 3 things you need are the adult trilogy.
Adult trilogy is definitely where you want to be if that's all you're going to do.
Yeah, it's Eye of Darkness, Temptation of the Force, and I forget what the last one is. It's not out yet. I forget what it's not out yet. Called. Yeah, but it's not out yet. I forget what it's going to be called.
Is it Trials of the Jedi? Is that its name?
I think that might be it. Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, so that's how those phases are typically split up. There are plenty of other things you can read into as well.
Comics. There's comics. Two main lines in each run of those phases as well.
Yep. High Republic and High Republic Adventures. So
minis usually. Phase 2 had at least one shot as well.
Mm-hmm. And phase 3 is going to have a lot more from Adventures, it looks like. So, yeah. There's a lot. Point being, there is a lot. But thankfully, like I said, most phases are pretty easy to follow if you just follow, whatever the publishers at the time consider the main storyline to be of that phase. But today we're just going to talk about most of the entry points. So let's start off today with The Light of the Jedi, which is sort of, I think what a lot of people would consider the sort of pilot book of the entire High Republic initiative. It's
a lot of things in phase 1 in general spring off of the events of this book.
Yeah, to the point where it still affects things today, where the inciting incident of this book is one of the things that the Jedi in the flashbacks are looking into in the Acolyte in the second to last episode.
They'll more casually mentioned.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
100 years have passed, and honestly, when that happened, we talked about that for a good few minutes, me and you, and we were like, "No, man, this is such a huge event to be so casually mentioned a century later."
Yeah. But yeah, let's actually talk about it. I guess try to do it as non-spoilery as possible at first. But we'll indicate when we're getting into more spoilery territory. But yeah, so. What is this? I guess overall, what is the book about? It is about. I guess we kind of have to talk about the inciting incident, which is a hyperspace disaster. It is this hyperspace disaster. It is this fallout from that hyperspace disaster that ends up affecting the entire galaxy. All the while, this sort of force rising in the background is sort of preparing for attack, is preparing to make their next move. Something that I also really like about the High Republic, and that is, obviously not as apparent in the Acolyte, if we're getting into it because of that, but the High Republic, because the Sith are supposed to be believed extinct, the Sith are not the villains. It is not the dark side.
It's really refreshing they're not the villains, and it's for reasons that become apparent in later books. That's the reason.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, there are no Sith. There's not an Empire to fight. There's not a Separatist to fight. There's not a First Order. This is a different group. These are Marauders called the Nihil.
They're Marauders. That's all they really are at this point.
And I do love. It was really interesting revisiting this book after experiencing so many more High Republic things. It was so interesting coming back to this, seeing just like how small their goals start, but seeing the grander plans of their leader, Marchion Ro, or I guess Marchion Ro, depending on who you ask. I think the official one is Marchion Ro, but I think the first audiobook said Marchion Ro, so I kind of got stuck on that.
I've always said Marchion, but
yeah. But anyway, seeing his grander plans begin to take shape, while the rest of the Nihil are literally just Marauders. That's all they are. They just they're here to cause chaos. They're here to take things over. They seem so small here early on, but obviously, considering I've already said they're the main villains of the High Republic, their schemes get far more grand. Let's say, it's really cool. It's really cool stuff to see.
And in the background, the Republic has Chancellor Lena So, who has her great works she is implementing.
Yes,
specifically bringing the galaxy together, not just the core and the midrim, everyone.
Yeah. Which also, I mean, like, on Lena So, I think is there's a fascinating difference in this Chancellor compared to any sort of other one we've seen. I think I remember, like, really early on reading this that there was, like, for me, I know, like, in the back of my mind, there was this feeling that, like, oh yeah, there's got to be something wrong with her because she's a Republic Chancellor and something's gonna go wrong. But no, I think she's just like a genuine, like, a genuine leader who, like, wants to see the best for her people, and you just don't get that much in Star Wars leaders usually.
No, you usually don't. They're usually corrupt, which is
or straight up literally the worst evil in the entire galaxy.
I'd like to just point out, again, just as a thought, that's the point of the prequels. They're corrupt still.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whatever. We do also follow a core set of Jedi throughout this. These are mostly the ones on the cover. We follow Avar Chris, who is a Jedi and friend of one of our other big ones. Oh, actually, he's not as big in this as I remember him being. Elzar Mann, who he's used to.
I remember him being bigger in the book than, like, his presence actually was.
Yeah. We also meet Loden Greatstorm, who is a Twi'lek Jedi, one that I'm a big fan of, and his Padawan Bel Zettifar.
Also, Loden is probably one of the coolest Jedi. Just putting it out there.
He's fun. I love him. There's Buri Yaga Agaburi, who I love him so much. He's our Wookiee Jedi. Which I also actually learned recently that George Lucas had said at one point in his time running Lucasfilm that Wookiees cannot be Jedi.
Okay, that's interesting. I would love to know his rationale as to why.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look into why. I probably should have looked into it more before bringing that up. But no, yeah, it's really weird. I don't know. There doesn't really seem to be any reason, unless George thought that, like, I don't know, all Wookiees were dumb or something, so they couldn't be Jedi. I don't know. It's a weird thing to say, I think.
It is interesting.
Anyway,
there's Buri. Buri's great.
Yeah. And so those are sort of like our main Jedi that we follow throughout this. I find, actually, it's really hard to talk about non-spoilers for this, so I think I do just kind of want to get into spoilers, unless you had any other like non-spoiler things to bring up.
Nothing about the book. I mean, I do want to talk about my history with the High Republic, because I feel like it's a little relevant as to why we're here today doing this.
Oh, totally. Go ahead.
The High Republic Initiative, I had heard about it when Phase 1 was still coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going, let me just try the first book, just to see if it was any good. And the first book, from me, was immediately one of the most gripping books I've read. I had read because in the first chapters, it's countdown, it's time till disaster, so many hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what disaster? Oh my god, I had to just keep going. And I read the first book and then finished it. it was great. And I looked into. I had quickly realized there was a lot going on in the High Republic at the time, and when I started reading it, the Phase 2 books hadn't even started coming out yet. Like,
I didn't realize you were on it that early, actually.
Yeah, I was on it early. I had read the last book, which would have been the last young adult book, because that's when I got around to the last at the time, if I remember correctly, of the trilogies. I finished that one days before the proper announcement of all the Phase 2 books.
Wow, okay. I actually didn't know that. Interesting.
So, because I flew through the first phase after, like, I fell in love with the first book, Light of the Jedi. I fell in love with it, and I had to figure out what the best way through it was. I didn't initially read the middle grade books. I have now since read every book, minus the book designed for literal toddlers that are retellings of the main 3 books for Phase 1.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't things happen in those that are like that like actually are like things you don't see in this book?
Yeah, that's I haven't.
Like, isn't it literally like because there's a point where like Burry like disappears from this book, and then it's like he like goes off with a kid or whatever, and so then I think that book like follows what Burry was doing during that time.
That sounds right. And they're the only piece of media I haven't read from the High Republic. Part of the initiative, but that was about halfway through. I think Phase 2, I really started bugging you to read it because I really wanted to talk to somebody.
Right, it's true, and so I did actually, and then I just kind of never stopped. I kind of caught up on like almost all of it, like really fast. I have an entire, I have an entire thread on my Twitter that you can go check out of just me. Like I still update it every time a new High Republic thing comes out, and I still add it to that thread.
You were properly caught up by the time Phase 3 was starting, and I still had to in conjunction with its release.
Yeah, I started catching up on High Republic things in January of 2023. And I think I was fully caught up by the end of the year, because that was whenever Eye of Darkness had come out, right?
Sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
I was on the High Republic really early still, which I'm glad for, because my God, I know like we say, oh, we should get into it. I do recommend trying it. It's a lot, but if you just want to focus on some key areas, you'll be fine. That's all I
that's why I think it's important to like sell it on the idea that it's more like here are the trilogies of stories you should follow, really.
Like, it's really easy. Like, when I first got into the books, it was literally just read. I just read the first 3 adult books, and then I was like, okay, I wanted to read more because I was just into it, and I was like, how do I read more? And that's when I got into everything.
Yeah. Cool. But anyway, let's talk some spoils, shall we? Let's spoil some things.
Let's do spoilers.
All right, I think it's important to note that one of my first notes here on Light of the Jedi is the cast of Preacher Season 1. I think you'll know what that means. I hope you know what that means.
I think I can put together what you mean, yes.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, I'm going to spoil Preacher Season 1 for you. So
we're already in spoiler territory, so
we are. Back when they were making Preacher Season 1, they told the entire cast, the entire supporting cast, they're like, hey guys, don't get comfortable, we're going to kill you all off at the end of the season. And I think the way that the showrunners of that show kind of put it is that each one of the cast, like slowly, one by one, kind of convinced themselves like, oh, it's going to be everyone but me. And they all kind of thought that by the end of the season. And they all got the script for the last episode. Like, oh, no, we all blow up. Gotcha. That's cool. That's understandable. And like 3-4 characters make it out alive and make it into season 2. And that's it. So that's how I feel reading the early portions of Light of the Jedi, because
there's so much death. My God.
Yeah. Everyone you meet here is going the fuck down. Everyone here, what is the name of the ship that blows up? The Legacy Run? The Legacy Run.
Because it's the Legacy Run disaster.
Yeah. Everyone you meet here on the Legacy Run is going to fucking die. And it's not going to go well.
Minus one compartment of passengers we meet later in the book.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. That's the only confirmed survivors.
Yeah. Made up of different people like working in the Hetzal system, but then something goes wrong, Something goes wrong. The entire ship blows up. That is the first quarter of the book. Building up to that disaster.
That's the phase that like hooked me on the book of like so much time till disaster.
It's cool. It's exciting. It is this impending sense of doom. Sense of impending doom. I worded that weird. But yeah, it is the sense of impending doom that just like really hooks you, really gets you interested in it. And I think like anyone will just like fly right through that because it's so interesting. I think Charles Soule does such a great job of really gripping the reader in that way. But yeah. Meanwhile, we are cutting over to meeting, other big characters throughout this. This is where we meet Avar, who's going to go like help the Hetzal system.
She's already in like nearby, so when the Hetzal system is like, "Hey, some shit's going down," she's like on it.
I remember actually, this is what I do remember about early High Republic stuff. I remember when the cover of the first book was revealed, and because I was in big Doctor Who circles at the time, the entire Doctor Who community went, "Oh my god, that's just Jodie Whittaker." And I mean,
I remember that. Yeah,
they're right. I mean, look, if we ever do Avar Kriss in live action, it's going to be Jodie Whittaker, and if it's not, that's just a miscast, no matter who it is. So there's that. We do also meet Loden Storm and Loden Great Storm and Bel Zettifar. Who I don't know. I still love this dynamic so much. I really love the whole Loden Greatstorm is this really stoic master that is still like pushing Bel in these kind of like zany ways, if, for lack of a better term. He's like pushing him out of flying ships and like seeing if he can catch himself. Like it's weird as hell. I love it. It's a great thing.
It's all gonna pay off for Bel at the end, but
yeah, it's fun. But yeah, we get some great scenes of like Avar and Burry and Elzar like helping out the Hetzal system. I always love seeing Avar and Elzar just like do cool Force shit. This is like really what they mean when like the whole idea with the High Republic is that this is the height of their power. This is them at their purest form. People talk about, what you see in the prequel trilogy is really the Jedi. At the end of days, they're not as strong as they used to be. They're not as great as they used to be. This is them at their height. It's called the High Republic because this is their greatest moment. This is the period of time when everyone looked back on it and said that was the Jedi at their best.
It's also really interesting, a period of time where we'll go back to because you notice they're really dogmatic about how people see the Force, use the Force, experience the Force.
Mm-hmm.
In this time, and even more so crazy in Phase 2, you see the Force in wildly different ways. Avar sees a song, Elzar sees an ocean, Burry sees a forest. They all interact with it differently.
Oh yeah. It's cool. It's really cool to see. But then we start introducing our Marauders, our Nihil Marauders, who are not like directly responsible for the disaster, but are definitely going to take advantage of it.
Absolutely, they will.
Yeah. This is
their
really...
leader, Marchion Ro, is initially like almost like a twerp. It's weird.
Yeah, he's kind of a little bitch, or at least you view him that way early on because he's described exactly as you see him. He's this like scrawny little like goth kid with like blue skin,
and he's only there because he has all the GPS routes.
Yeah. So he knows like how to he knows like how to like take advantage of these things. So that's pretty much like the only reason that he's leading them, or at least that's how you see it early on. Actually, I say you see it early on. You see throughout most of this book that way until like the very end. But even then, like the larger like machinations of Marchion Ro become really more apparent in other projects in the High Republic. It's not really all done here. Yeah.
In just this book, you can get a sense that he's got a bigger plan by the end, and you can see the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But yeah, let's see. We get some great scenes of Loden and Bel fighting the Marauders.
Different Marauders. These are just people who are trying to take advantage of the fact Hetzal is like everyone's trying to get away, and these are people who just want to steal a ship.
Yeah. But from this hyperspace disaster, we begin looking into these things called emergences because something bad happens in hyperspace, it really doesn't just end there, because hyperspace is going to keep the debris of that destroyed giant ship floating through space, and it's going to keep coming out of hyperspace and keep destroying other things. It's a really cool idea. I really love like when different like Star Wars authors and writers like decide to like go into some of the more like technical aspects of what certain like technologies and the more like fantastical elements of this universe actually mean, and what they would actually do if something horrible like this happened. I really love that idea. And so what the Nihil and the Jedi kind of try to start doing simultaneously, though not together, obviously.
And one has significantly more luck than the other initially.
They begin looking into these emergencies and trying to find out where different pieces of this ship will end up at different times. Importantly, we're looking for flight logs. We're looking for things that may lead
black
to
box of the ship.
Yeah. And so it is this. A lot of the book ends up becoming this race to find certain important pieces of the ship. And the Nihil and the Jedi's different ways of doing that. Importantly, as we already mentioned, Marchion Roa has his own way of doing that, in the form of one, I had the name written down, Mari Santeca.
Santeca, a very, very old woman.
Actually we'll leave it at that. Just a very old woman. No, she is obviously, she has these, certain like hyperspace sensitivities that is able to...
She can, as it's explained in this book alone even, she could like see roots. Because because something happened to her in her past, and that's all this book ever says.
Yeah. And so Marchion is using her to help find these hyperspace routes and find out where these emergencies will happen, so the Nihil can get to them before the Jedi. So, we do also we get some great scenes like Elzar and Avar sort of like investigating these emergencies. But really, I think the greatest headway on the emergencies comes from our friend Buryaga, who ends up meeting one of the kids. I think what is it? He meets one of the kids that's like that was like on the legacy run, or no, he wasn't on it. He was.
This is the kid. That's the kid that the captain of the legacy run even meets briefly, and is like also stop trying to slice into the adult content.
That's right. And so like Burry like meets this kid, and a kid and says like, oh hey, you saw something important, and so like, Burry is the one that like ends up like talking to this kid and ends up like finding out like how to predict these emergencies, as well as of course oh god, wait, where is it? Where are my notes on it? Oh my god, something with with Avar and Elzar. They're talking to oh god, who is it
some
again?
Santecas.
No, they're talking about Santecas. I'm talking about the oh my god, I cannot find it.
Oh, the guy who banks the supercomputer. Is that what you're trying to think of?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. Yeah, because it's his technology is able to actually to help look for the emergencies as well, and that's really what helps the Jedi.
Basically, his idea, it's a cool idea too, is you take an ass ton of navicomputers and you have them trying to predict based off of information they already have, and it is initially not going well until Elder Amanda's like, oh, I know, we're gonna make it rain. He makes like a rain cloud with Avar to drain on the navicomputers so they can cool down.
Again,
cool force shit.
Yeah, again, cool force shit. Like I love seeing the Jedi like at literally the height of their power. Meanwhile, we're also finding out more about the Nihil. In addition to the whole Mari Santeca thing, we meet some of their higher-ups, known as their Tempest Runners, in the form of Lorna D, Pan Eta. I think there was another one, right? Or am I wrong?
Kasev.
Kasev. Yeah, Kasev. Do I even have him in my notes? Where the fuck is he?
How would he not be in your notes?
Oh, there he is. Sorry, Kasev. You're right. Yep, there he is. I couldn't find him in my notes. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, we do meet the Tempest Runners. They're sort of like the higher-ups that are not Marchion Roa, I should say.
They probably, like, if Marchion's the leader who has like all of the routes to go around the galaxy, they're like the Tempest Runners will actually lead the people into battle, if you will.
Yeah,
and all of their various like sub leaders. Emperors. Like they're the ones who actually do the marauding. Marchion just takes a cut because he has the paths, the hyperspace routes.
Mm-hmm. I do want to talk about a character that gets introduced around this time. Little guy you might have heard of named Porter Ingle, the Blade of Bardata. Yeah, let's talk about Porter Ingle, who's going to become.
Yeah, let's talk about Porter.
Who's going to become really important in this conversation in a little bit. Yeah, Porter Ingle is a character. I think pretty clearly. I don't know exactly how far in advance they had planned, but Porter Ingle, they'd clearly already decided how important he was going to be to the larger High Republic story. Mostly in that he's an extremely old Jedi. He has been here for an extremely long time, and he's well known for certain reasons that, again, we'll get into. I don't know why we're dancing around it. He's the main character in the comic we're covering today.
yeah. We don't need the dance. We've had spoiler warnings for a while now, so.
Mm-hmm. But no, it's really cool. It's a cool idea for a character. I love seeing him shine in his scenes with Loden and Bell. It's just really cool.
Because when we meet him, he's just a jovial chef on an outpost in a world, because he's kind of past the general age of usefulness for a Jedi Master. He's not going to actively go out on missions and solve problems.
Yeah.
He's just a chef. He's a Jedi Master chef. Until he needs to get his ass in gear, and he kicks a lot of ass in this book.
Yeah. We do. It is this great scene that when these farmers on this planet are attacked by the Nihil, and so it ends up becoming this great extended action sequence of Porter and Loden and Bell all fighting them. It's really awesome. I really love that. It's one of the cooler I guess B plots in the novel.
Yeah, B plot after the emergences, or the A plot after the first third of the book comes and goes.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh, that's actually where the storm comes in then, and Avar and Elzar summon the fucking storm, because that's literally my note: summon a fucking storm.
Nice. So either way, same idea, of course. Re-explained now, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't talked about Ember. Ember the Charhound.
Ember the Charhound.
Belle's little pet. What a pet to keep around.
I'd like to point out, we think of Ember as Bells, but Ember is not just Bells at the moment in this book. That's a future thing.
Yeah. But I mean, I'd say that this book still makes pretty clear that it's attached to Bell, I would say.
It's not but Ember isn't explicitly Bell's little Charhound pet yet. Ember is a member of the Outpost team. That's what they decided, because they didn't want to get rid of her.
Yeah.
Which I thought was the most adorable explanation for a group of Jedi to decide to adopt a dog.
Right. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. The Jedi and the Republic eventually do get their hands on the recorder from the Legacy run,
which Marchion Ro is quote unquote upset about.
So they find out where the Nihil are, where they're stationed, and so they decide to go after them. I do also love,
specifically, they go after Casa, who they think our biggest army they got.
Yeah. I do love the scene before that though, where because Kassav wasn't able to retrieve the recorder before the Republic did, so Marchion just cuts off the dude's hand. Great moment. Love that. We get a great scene of the Jedi Council debating, and something that I actually really appreciated on reread, because I haven't reread it since I first read it in the first place. I could have worded that better. We get this great scene with the Jedi Council, where they sort of put to a vote, actually going after the Nihil like this. And I love that the deciding vote is made by Jorah Mali. She is the one that decides, to go after them, which is especially cool because it's, again, spoilers, but we're in full spoiler territory. So it ends up sealing her fate, because this is the mission that kills Jorah Mali. She decides her own fate in this moment. Also really cool, because this is one of those moments that sort of delves into a different side of the High Republic Phase 1. That is a moment that leads directly into the first young adult novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we could say it. We could say that Jor-Mali is the master of a Jedi that shows up in the first young adult novel.
Which was
And so
honestly
obviously,
probably the most gripping known and dread that this character is going to have to face after the main events of that book happen.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I really like that. I love that. It's just one of those moments. This, and also in that same battle, we do also meet Skier. These are two, Jor-Mali and Skier are two characters that are going to be obviously pretty important. Well, Jor-Mali dies, but her legacy, I guess, is important.
Her legacy and her death lead to various other things that become important.
Yeah, but Skier is a character that ends up becoming really important in the High Republic comics, the main Marvel comics, High Republic run by Calvin Scott. But Skier is a Trandoshan Jedi who, even without having read the comics yet, I remember just falling in love with this guy on my first read. He's just a really fun Jedi. He has a lot of he has a lot of personality in battle. He also suffers a severe injury. He loses an entire arm in the battle here, but he's a Trandoshan, so he can just grow it right back.
It'll grow back.
So, yeah, it'll grow. Well, eventually. I act as if it'll just like pop back on there, but no, it'll take a while. That is one of those cool things, is like when you start reading the comics, he doesn't have the arm already, and it like slowly grows that back over the course of those first couple issues. It's fun.
It's fun. It's good.
Yeah. Let's see. Also, just again, the dramatic irony of the build up to this battle. Loden like telling Bell he wants him to become a Jedi Knight, and Bell is like, when you come back from this battle, man, I will totally become a Jedi Knight, man. And Loden's like, yes, I will come back from this battle, man. Trust me.
Does he know?
But yeah, we get this great fight. It actually is as has been pointed out many a time, space battles in Star Wars are sometimes just hard to follow. Maybe even harder to follow in the written word. But no, I really like this one. It's just a good space battle. We do. Let's see. Oh yeah, I do love this this sort of like nihil tactic of the short hyperspace jumps in this battle. I thought that was so cool. How it like makes their ships like harder to hit and more like unpredictable, because they're just making these like really short hyperspace jumps to like make their way just like across the battlefield.
That, like they're jumping sometimes inches at a time, that they just can't shoot them. Just moving here, now they're here, like maybe 5 inches away from where they were.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I just love like a Star Wars space battle, because most of them are just, ships flying in space, shoot, blam, blam, whatever. But I just love what like they have like a really like distinctive feature to them that a lot of like Star Wars space battles don't have. So it's just cool. It's really cool stuff. But yeah, Loden tries to infiltrate one of the Nihil ships and gets captured by Lorna D. Marchion Ro sets up the first of his Tempest runners to take the fall for him, as he sets up Kassav to get straight up killed by the Jedi. And so Kassav gets killed, and the Jedi think they have won. They have not, obviously.
Clearly.
But yeah, if you're going to continue reading High Republic things, just keep in mind that's not the last time Marchion Ro is going to do that. So yeah, Loden gets captured by the Nihil. Marchion takes his lightsaber, which is just a really cool thing, and it's also like part of what I think is one of the more like iconic images of Marchion Ro, him with Loden's lightsaber.
I know exactly what you're referring to. And it also leads to one of my favorite Marchion Ro conversations, when he talks to Loden, and Loden deprived of sleep. He could barely use the 49 trick Marchion at some conversation to let him go. And when
it's so good.
His name, it's my favorite thing. It's delivered in an audiobook. Mm-hmm. It's Loden Rape Storm. How perfect is that?
So good. Oh my god. Oh, it's so good. I love it. I love Marchion Ro as a villain. Like I think it was like that scene in particular that made me really love him by the end. He gets even better as phase 1 goes along, and just a great sort of like big bad for the High Republic to face. But after all this, the Outer Rim is reopened, which is nice. Hyperspace lanes are reopened as well, obviously. We also learned that Marchion Ro has this sort of rod that has been passed down through his family, which was another thing that, having read way more High Republic things, I fucking loved seeing. I
Had
love that.
so much
It's
more
so cool.
context. I loved it.
Yeah. Let's see. Indira Stokes takes on Bel Zettifar as a Padawan. Elzar Mann is made a master. Even though he wasn't in the book much, I don't know what he did to deserve that, but he's a master now.
He's a master. He solved the hyperspace problem. That's why he's a master.
Yeah, sure.
And then he has
part of Lena So's great works. Yeah, as all totally normal Jedi do.
But I suppose I jumped ahead of your point.
I was just gonna say, part of Lena So's. One of Lena So's like great works, the Starlight Beacon, the sort of like symbol of hope for the High Republic, is opened up. And yeah, just again, if you're gonna keep reading it after this point, just keep that in mind. And then Elzar and Avar part ways, and that's when Elzar has his vision of the future. And that is where that first book
he knows and loves dying.
Yeah. Again, also, totally normal Jedi things.
Also, like, I paid attention to the vision specifically because he talks a lot, and I was like, oh, okay, good, cool.
Yeah. There is no fear, Jacob.
There is no fear. Jedi don't feel fear. Talking about.
No. But yeah, that is Light of the Jedi. Shall we talk some Porter Engle shit?
Yes, let's jump back. What is it, 100 years? 150?
Yeah, about 100, I think. 100, yeah, I think 150 for the time difference between phases 2 and 1. So, yeah, Porter Engle. I fucking love Porter Engle. First off, I love him so much. I think he's a great character. I love him especially in his more like phase 2 younger persona. I enjoy him a lot.
I think he's more fun just because he's infinitely more cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he's dual wielding.
Yeah, so. Just great. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Super fun. But yeah, I think I actually kind of want to start this conversation by talking about the sort of flashbacks that play throughout this comic. This is a 4-part miniseries. This is a standalone story for the most part. But really, I think where a lot of this is about like Porter's past and his relationship to a character named Barash Sylvain, who, I'll just say it now. If you've watched The Acolyte, Barash might sound familiar in a smaller line when May comes face to face with Torben, who has taken the Barash vow himself, which is this is the comic where all that Barash vow shit is explained, and it's really cool. I really like seeing that. But
yes.
But yeah. Actually, getting into those flashbacks I was talking about. Yeah, flashbacks I was talking about are mostly about Porter and Barash meeting each other and growing to know each other as literally a brother and sister. It is their relationship is a sibling dynamic. They're not literally siblings, but yeah, they regularly refer to each other as brother and sister. And I like the dynamic. Something about that I think it's very because we could write about Jedi relationships all day. We could talk about master apprentice relationships. We could talk about Jedi loving each other in certain ways that they shouldn't. But no, this is different. This is more a sibling dynamic. I guess the closest you could imagine is maybe Anakin and Ahsoka, Anakin and Obi-Wan. You have those sort of more sibling dynamics, but those aren't really like vocalized. I guess in the way that this is.
They're still more overtly still an apprentice. It's all the same.
Yeah. It's only in Obi-Wan and Anakin's goodbye that Obi-Wan straight up says to him, you're my brother. Whereas this is like, these are two characters that see each other as siblings throughout their entire time together. And I really love that. I love seeing how that is portrayed here. But of course, seeing that Barash and Porter are getting really close, the council does separate them. And I like that. I like that you do see that in the past, like Porter and Barash try to find ways to stay together. They will, they decide to like actively sabotage their own Jedi careers so that the Jedi Order will have no choice but to put them back together and see that they do actually work well together.
In a way that does not form an attachment, more importantly.
Yeah.
far as the Jedi Order
it's really
is
cool.
concerned.
I just love those flashbacks. I think they're easily my favorite thing about this particular comic. The rest of the story is great too, obviously, but no, I love those flashbacks in particular. But
they're very good. They're very good. However, probably my favorite joke, because remember I mentioned that when we meet Porter, he's a chef.
Mm-hmm.
Although this comic opens on him being a terrible chef and only just starting to.
Hey, he had about 150 years to get better at it.
To me, it's really funny though. It's because it's intentional, right? They're taking Porter like to cook. They show that he's cooking free food, and then the ducks.
Yeah. All this on a place. What is this? Bone World I have written down here.
Because it's all bones and shit.
Yeah. It is an unpleasant place with unpleasant people, and Porter is mostly here settling disputes. Because yeah, that makes sense. On this planet, they do also find these pathfinders, these Jedi pathfinders that go to spar with Porter. They get taken. Porter and Barish get taken to this planet called Gansivore, I believe I've written down. Where they go to where they go to a place called Fear. Okay, it's spelled Firevale. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced. I think it's supposed to be pronounced Fearavale, probably.
As it's been never said out loud, we get that in reality.
Yeah. We do hear some dialogue.
I think it makes more.
I think calling it Firevale would be fucking stupid. And that's pretty much the only reason that I'm like, there's got to be a different way to pronounce that, right? But yeah, we do also hear some extra dialogue about I say here. You read some extra dialogue about work on Iram and Arano around this time that I think is referencing. It is referencing some of the plot lines throughout the adult novels in Phase 2.
Yeah, it's Phase 2 is really connected in that way.
It is. It's because look, the entire phase takes place across a few weeks, pretty much, or a week, 2 weeks.
It's like a month max.
Yeah, it's cool. I really like that. Phase two is the most different phase, and I think you've told me before that like if people for some reason didn't really latch on to it. But like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it.
I latched on to it. I'm more seeing active like as do things like I'm not didn't dig it.
Which is odd because I don't know. I really liked the more literal like prequel trilogy approach to like doing a High Republic story. Obviously, you know, as mentioned, in a much shorter time span, but still really cool. I really enjoy it. But yeah, we find out about this this political plot taking place here in Fearavale. That there's this kidnapped princess, this guy named Prince Colden.
I'm gonna put kidnapped in air quotes, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes. We find out about that. There are these Bethunians on this planet. These are the guys that I think, if I remember right, I read this a while ago. Sorry. I believe these are the guys that brought Porter and Barish to this planet. Is that right?
That sounds
Bethunians, right. Or they met them here. I don't know. Shit, I feel bad. I read. Okay, so like we had a lot of delays in setting up this recording, so I don't remember this as well as I wish I did. But anyway, yeah, there's this sort of like built-in weak point in the Fearavale wall that the Bethunians are going to attack. Porter is like through all this is like fighting them and being a negotiator through it all, while Barish is with the prince and the royals inside the Fearavale wall
and the quote unquote kidnapped princess.
Yes. Let's see. Sikatra's the name of the princess, right? I think I've written down here.
You're probably right. You're better at taking notes. I have the.
See, you say that.
Comic in front of you.
I don't know if you're right. But yeah, yeah, this kidnapped princess is in fact pregnant, and she is uh it's we essentially end up creating this trying to think of the right like literary reference here, but we essentially create this oh god, trying to think of what it is. I definitely have something on the tip of my tongue, but I've got nothing on it. Point being, we create this political plot where in which Barish is aware of this. The Bethunians are not, and neither is the our queen here, Queen Kiran. I have written down here.
Yeah, she's also pissed though about this marriage, the princess.
Yeah.
And the princess.
Yeah. While Porter is defending this gate, the Bethunians call in backup in the form of one General Vyse, who again was just a cool character to see again. After reading many more High Republic things, seeing Vyse show up here. Vyse kills a bunch of the Bethunians, and these are the guy's name is Tozin. Vyse kills Tozin's men, and Tozin contacts Sikatra before he dies. Sikatra is in fact not pregnant.
Like, listen, and he's like, "Has gone to shit. We planned this quickly."
Yeah. And essentially this like the through ending all of this, first off, Porter is able to defeat Vyse, obviously, but Vyse will return in our sort of MC post-credit scene manner. But Barris saves Porter from all this. Vyse escapes, and we end this sort of like relationship between Porter and Barish, with Barish leaving the Jedi Order, kind of Ahsoka style, but doing so in a way that like isn't quite, because she's not a Pathfinder by the end, right?
No, she's just she says, "I need to go find myself. I was tricked by families." She or her family before her time at those memories, those strong memories, blinded her to what the Force was probably trying to tell her as she understood it. She was being deceived.
And so she becomes the originator of what is known as the Barish Vow, which is again a thing that we see eventually in the Acolyte with Torvin, which I really appreciate seeing. I think that's just really cool. And I there is also this little like tease at the end of the comic about a thing that is still apparently upcoming called the Broken Blade. I imagine it's something that'll eventually come out like when they're done releasing the main 3 High Republic phases.
You know what though?
I'm imagining
the thing in Temptation that that's probably leading into that.
Yeah, true. See, I don't know. I'm wondering. Yeah, I guess that might be right. I don't know. Point being, I'll be curious to see how that eventually comes about. But yeah, that is the Blade. Much shorter conversation, obviously, but still a great comic. It is. It's still a great little. It's a great like maybe not a great like introductory High Republic thing, but it's a great just standalone Star Wars story that I think most people could get into, whether they know like larger High Republic things or not.
Yeah, it's not like this, then also read this as like to continue. No, it's standalone. If you want a fun and like crazy, there's mostly extended fight stuff generally. Story with like 2 really kick Jedi. It's fun.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's really great. But yeah, I think that actually does it then for our High Republic Spectacular. That actually does it. I don't know if this is actually gonna like help anyone to get into High Republic things, but I don't know. I kind of hope it does. I hope it does something at least.
Maybe
if nothing else. I mean, hey, I'm
maybe it'll help.
What's
clarify what gives to some people.
Yeah, hopefully. And if not, I mean, hey, I'll take an opportunity to talk about why I love the High Republic, because it's I mean, it's obviously still pretty big right now, but I think it's still something that there are still plenty of Star Wars fans that might be interested in it, and I don't know, just getting to talk about it is something that I always appreciate. So yeah, there's that.
About this stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, we should talk about what we're covering next time on R2-BD.
Yes, it's probably helpful.
Yeah, so we kind of have a Clone Wars themed episode on our hands next time. we're covering things specifically relating to, I guess, the dark side of the Clone Wars, mostly because our larger Star Wars like visual media thing we're doing. We're going to cover, because a while back we covered Clone Wars Micro Series Volume 1. We're going to do Volume 2 next time, so that'll be super fun. Comic-wise, we're going to talk about Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, which is a comic that I'm aware of is just really well liked. I think it's like one of the only things from the Dark Horse era of Star Wars comics to just still be canon these days, so that's really cool. And then I chose our book for next time, because we're back on my turn, with Dark Disciple. I've never read it, and I really want to read it, so there's that. We're going to read Dark Disciple next time. So yeah, that'll be next time, and I think that about does it. Unless, of course, you had anything else to add.
Oh, I just love the High Republic. I love the chance to talk about it, and I'm
totally
looking to Dark specifically.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Also, be curious to see why everyone loves Son of Dathomir, because I think that'll be really fun. So yeah. All right. I think that about does it. As always, our link trees and everything will be linked in the description below. My link tree will be in the description below. Just Jacob's Twitter will be there, because Jacob doesn't have a link tree, because you don't really have that much to promote, I guess. But other things on Blood Donut Studios, we mostly do comics and Star Trek things. Star Trek with you, Jacob. Not the other Jacob that's on the channel. The other Jacob does the comic things. I understand that's actually really confusing to a lot of people, so I try to make it clear as much as I can. I think that about does it. So thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, this has been Joey Morgan.
Jacob.
Goodbye.